Tonight, NBC5 investigates how Texas paper tags have become a felon's best friend. Our team has uncovered cases where fraudulent temporary plates, often sold illegally by small car dealers, ended up on vehicles used in serious crimes. Here's senior investigative reporter Scott Friedman.
First, we exposed how crooks are selling fraudulent Texas tags for profit. Now we're going to show you how people are using those tags to commit violent crimes, steal, smuggle, and hide from police. We wondered how often it's happening. You may not believe what we heard when we asked police officers and federal agents.
We're going on the 121, northbound.
From a wild police chase with a drive-by shooting suspect,
He is blocked there.
to a major credit card theft investigation,
Who's this?
to drug smuggling cases, and even murder.
No other family should have to go through this.
One thing connects them all: Texas paper tags. Many sold fraudulently, police say, by small car dealers cashing in on a black market that helps bad guys get away.
It basically becomes a ghost car.
They give people anonymity. It is a cloak, if you will, for the vehicle.
NBC5 Investigates reached out to law enforcement agencies across the region to ask how often they see those tags used to conceal other crimes. Many told us it's a constant problem.
All day, every day.
Listen to what the DEA told us about how often federal drug enforcement agents see smugglers with paper tags on cars used to transport drugs in the DFW area.
At least 80% of the investigations that we're conducting at some point have involved surveillance of vehicles or stops of drug-laden vehicles that have temp tags.
One example, they say, these vehicles used by a major fentanyl smuggling ring in Fort Worth.
Every single vehicle that this particular organization was using to move their drugs from point A to point B were temp tags.
As NBC5 Investigates first reported, a lack of thorough vetting at the Texas DMV has allowed crooks, some even using stolen identities, to obtain car dealer licenses and then gain access to the state's tag system. Once inside, they can create tags registered to false names and addresses, print those tags, and sell them for profit. When police stop cars with fraudulent tags, the information in the computer can be a dead end.
A paper tag now has become that hood that the bad guys put on their cars.
When Carrollton police chased this driver suspected of firing shots into a house in October, they feared if the car got away, they might not find it because the car had a paper tag and so many are fraudulent. DMV records we obtained showed the tag on that car was created by a dealer NBC5 Investigates exposed in November, Freeman Auto. We showed how Travis County investigators believe Freeman is a shell company created to illegally sell tags.
I've been to Freeman. I stood in front of it. It's not there.
The car that ran from Carrollton police was not allowed to have a paper tag from Freeman or any car dealer. State records show the car had not been inspected since 2019. Dealers can only legally issue paper tags for cars that had a state inspection in the last 180 days.
Sure, we've got the driver still in the vehicle. Felony stop has taken place.
These tags coming out of one or two specific dealerships that you've identified are masking and basically enabling these bad guys to commit these crimes.
Freeman Auto has not responded to numerous attempts to reach them. The DMV eventually shut Freeman down for suspected fraud. In Arlington, police say they recently found a Freeman tag used to disguise this stolen truck so it could be resold to an unsuspecting buyer.
And that vehicle had all the identification numbers switched on it, and it had a paper tag that matched those false identification numbers.
After a recent hit-and-run crash, Arlington police began searching for the car and found 5 different cars driving around with copies of the same fraudulent tag.
Anytime I see a paper tag, unless it's a brand spanking new car, I'm running with the assumption that it's probably illegitimate.
This problem has risen to a level where it requires significant action and attention.
Lake Worth Police Chief J.T. Manashagian estimates about half the tags his officers see are fraudulent. Some, like this one, blatantly false.
I have a question about the tag. Why does it say this is an Audi when you're driving a Lexus?
Officers say they found the driver of this car had more than 100 stolen debit cards.
These even got PIN numbers on them. Oh my God. This is crazy.
Lake Worth police say the man admitted to being part of an international group that applied for cards in other people's names.
Who's Lisa?
Then swiped them from the victims' mailboxes when they arrived. Investigators suspect the man used the fraudulent tag in an attempt to avoid being caught if someone spotted him stealing mail.
I would beg and plead with our lawmakers to take action now to correct this problem.
Manashagian says DFW needs a tag fraud task force. Dallas used to have one. But as we've reported, Governor Abbott defunded those units statewide in 2017 when he vetoed a clean air bill that contained funding for those teams in major cities. Since then, police tell us they've seen more crimes involving bogus tags.
Any funding that we could get to get somebody to focus intentional efforts on this problem would be paramount for us.
And it's not just police asking for help.
Nobody's going to buy a plate to make a ghost car to do something right.
Jay Banks is speaking on behalf of a friend who can't speak for himself. Everett Briscoe, an off-duty police officer from New Orleans, was on a restaurant patio in Houston in June when police say two men looking for watches and jewelry tried to rob him. They allegedly shot Briscoe, killing him, then fled in a car with paper tags.
This cancer of senseless violence has to stop.
Briscoe's death devastated friends in New Orleans, including Banks, a city councilman who knew Briscoe as a fellow member of a legendary Mardi Gras parade crew.
No other family needs to suffer the tragedy that the Briscoe family suffered.
Houston police declined to provide details on the tag involved in the shooting, citing the ongoing investigation. Banks believes Texas needs to give police more money to make sure paper tags cannot be used to cover any crime.
This is not just a white-collar, victimless crime.
We've asked to interview Governor Abbott multiple times about this, but our requests have been declined. The governor's staff referred us back to a statement they sent us previously. It says the governor's worked with the legislature to implement new rules that allow the DMV to shut down fraudulent dealers faster. The statement goes on to say we continue working with the DMV and the legislature to review other potential legislative changes needed and build on this progress.
Scott, what about the DMV? What are they doing to prevent people from creating these fraudulent tags?
Yeah, since we exposed the scale of the fraud, the DMV started developing a plan for tougher background checks on car dealers. And in recent weeks, they've started pulling the plug more quickly on fraudulent dealers suspected of selling tags. But police tell us they already see the bad guys adapting, Brian, and finding ways to continue printing tags for profit, which is why police say they need more funding to deal with this problem.
Tonight, a family's plea to Governor Abbott asking him to give police more tools to crack down on paper tag fraud. Their son died in a crash involving a car with a fraudulent Texas temporary tag, one of hundreds of thousands of tags issued by car dealers suspected of using the DMV system to print tags and sell them for black market profits. The scale of the problem exposed in this ongoing series of reports from our senior investigative reporter, Scott Friedman.
He was the nicest kid you'd ever meet.
He was very faithful to his friends and to his family and to God, and just everybody loved him.
Taryn Solbrig's life ended in a cloud of dust along a country road in central Texas. While riding dirt bikes at a friend's ranch, the group ventured onto the road, kicking up dust that left Taryn hidden from a pickup truck traveling down the middle of the street.
It's hard. It's very hard to live with the fact that you don't have your kid.
The sadness and frustration only grew, the Solbrigs say, when they learned the truck that hit their son had a fraudulent Texas paper tag. Without that temporary tag, do you think that car would have been on the road?
Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
It was not what caused the accident, but it actually started the process of that truck being on that road.
NBC5 Investigates obtained the tag number from the accident report and discovered that tag was issued by Texas Motor Company, a licensed car dealer investigated by the FBI for allegedly printing hundreds of thousands of fraudulent tags. The FBI says the owner of Texas Motor Company, Emmanuel Padilla Reyes, also known as Christian Hernandez Bonilla, is currently a fugitive facing federal wire fraud charges, accused of selling Texas tags across the United States. The truck that hit Taryn Solbrig was not allowed to have any paper tag. State records show the vehicle had not received a state inspection in years. Under Texas law, dealers can only issue paper tags to cars inspected in the last 180 days, cars they actually sell. But as NBC5 Investigates has reported time and time again, small dealers have been able to use their license to access the state's electronic tag system, create tags with bogus information, and sell them for black market profits. The Solbrigs want it to stop.
I want to know that Terrence has a name.
He didn't just die on the side of that road for no reason. If something good could come out of this whole thing, it's maybe that we could prevent somebody else's family from having to experience the same tragedy that we've had.
They want Governor Abbott and the state legislature to give police more funding to attack the problem. In 2017, Governor Abbott defunded special police units that investigated paper tag and inspection fraud when he vetoed a clean air bill that helped pay for those units in big cities. The governor said at the time he was opposed to what he called a cash for clunkers type of program in the bill. But the veto also shut down special enforcement units like this one in Dallas County that used to take tag sellers off the streets.
I think it was very irresponsible for the governor to do it. And I think that if he ever had to experience what we had to experience, he would never have done that.
So we'd ask the governor, please reconsider. You know, of course, we're not versed in politics and that kind of, taking funding from here, moving it to, we need to eliminate the problem.
This problem has risen to a level where it requires significant action and attention.
As NBC5 Investigates reported last night, police departments across North Texas tell us they need more help combating serious crimes involving fraudulent tags. From high-speed chases to drug smuggling and identity theft investigations, police say suspects in crimes are using fraudulent tags to hide. The tags are often created with false names and addresses entered into the state system, effectively creating ghost cars, helping bad guys get away.
These vehicles should not be on the road.
The Solbrigs believe special police enforcement units are essential for sharing intel and training officers to recognize fraudulent tags. In their son's case, they say the Texas Department of Public Safety did not even ticket the owner of the truck for having a fraudulent tag. The Solbrigs filed a complaint with DPS. In a statement, the agency told NBC5 Investigates it cannot comment on the case because the trooper who handled the crash is currently under internal investigation by the Office of Inspector General for his handling of that incident.
This accident would never have happened if the other driver did not attain illegal paper tags through your fail system.
At a recent Texas Department of Motor Vehicles meeting, Tawny Solbrig told the agency's board the DMV failed her family by allowing Texas Motor Company to print hundreds of thousands of tags before the agency revoked the company's dealer license for suspected fraud. She said it's only the FBI and federal prosecutors who've helped bring justice.
This dealership has been indicted only because of those people over there, not because of y'all, because y'all failed the system.
Now the Solbrigs are on a mission to see that the governor and state lawmakers give police more funds to find the fraudsters.
Taryn loved to help others. He is all about service, and we're committed. We are very committed to making sure that this is not going to happen all the time and that there needs to be change.
For months, we've reached out to Governor Abbott's office asking to speak with him about this issue. His staff has repeatedly turned down our interview requests. Instead, they've directed us to the same written statement several times, which says in part, Governor Abbott worked with the legislature and the Texas DMV to efficiently address the issue by passing legislation that allows the DMV to shut down fraudulent dealers faster. The statement goes on to say we continue working with the DMV and the legislature to review other potential legislative changes needed and build on this progress. After our investigation revealed the scale of the fraud in November, the chairman of the Texas House Transportation Committee pledged to hold hearings to address this. Tonight, a state government source familiar with the situation tells me a request for hearings has been received by the House Speaker and that it appears likely hearings will happen. We'll be tracking this closely.
The top executive at the Texas Department of Motor Vehicles is stepping down, all in the fallout from the state's fraudulent paper tag crisis exposed in an NBC5 investigation.
Over the last 3 months, our team has revealed how lax security at the DMV allowed criminals to get car dealer licenses, access the DMV system, and illegally sell temporary tags for profit.
Now, a major shakeup inside the agency. Senior investigative reporter Scott Freeman has the breaking details tonight.
DMV Executive Director Whitney Brewster faced mounting questions following our reports revealing the huge scale of the problem. Hundreds of thousands of fraudulent tags on Texas cars. In a resignation letter obtained by NBC5 Investigates, Brewster says she's proud of the work her agency did to try to stop the fraud. But by leaving, she says, the deck is now clear for new leadership.
There is a proliferation of temporary tags.
A massive shakeup tonight. Whitney Brewster, who led the Texas DMV for almost a decade, is out, submitting her resignation to the board that oversees the agency. One board member telling me tonight the DMV needs new leadership to tackle the paper tag debacle.
Our number one priority and what we're valuing is public safety. And I think that we have an opportunity now to really lead the charge and make some of the changes that are necessary to ensure that we can keep our Texans safe.
One law enforcement agency now estimates more than 1.2 million fraudulent paper tags were sold last year. Tags created by people with car dealer licenses who could access the state system and use it to make black market profits. Just 11 days ago, I asked Brewster why her agency did not move faster to stop the crooks.
How can people trust that you're looking out for Texas when your department allowed it to get to that point before stepping in with some of these tougher measures?
So the agency is required to follow the law.
Brewster said the DMV did not have authority from the legislature to quickly shut down dealers suspected of fraud until new legislation was passed last year. An NBC5 investigation showed how those dealers were able to print massive numbers of tags. Some with no storefront issued more tags than large franchise dealers. A clear sign, police said, that those small dealers were selling tags, not cars. And we discovered the DMV does not fingerprint dealers to thoroughly vet them before giving them access to the tag system. When we questioned Brewster in December, she said she was moving fast to address the fraud.
This is absolutely an emergency. We're looking at every possible solution we can to expedite the process.
But for some in law enforcement, it wasn't fast enough.
Until the spotlight was on, then, okay, now it's an emergency.
Officers at the top unit that investigates tag fraud hope a new DMV boss will do more to help them catch the bad guys.
And we were fighting a fight with one hand tied behind our back. Hopefully that will change.
DMV board member Manny Ramirez also heads Fort Worth's police union.
Because there are some truly bad actors that are out there that have been taking advantage of this temp tag system for far too long.
In a resignation message the DMV released tonight, Brewster said, unfortunately, challenges and difficulties still face the state and our organization. Often the hardest thing to do as a public servant leader is to step back and accept that you've done everything you can and that it might be time to allow new leadership to take the reins. The DMV's deputy executive director will take over while the board searches for a permanent replacement. The board meets later this week to start talking about what's next.
License to smuggle. An NBC5 investigation reveals fraudulent Texas paper tags have become a tool for human traffickers and drug runners on the U.S.-Mexico border. Federal agents tell NBC5 Investigates even the cartels have been able to get real Texas tags registered to false addresses and then use them to disguise smuggling vehicles. Senior investigative reporter Scott Freeman traveled to the border to see the problem firsthand.
What we found at the border shows how a lack of security at the Texas DMV has opened the door for cartels and human smugglers to get these fraudulent tags. Tags police say smugglers are using to evade law enforcement at the border. A stunning revelation considering Governor Abbott, who appoints the board that oversees the DMV, has made border security a major focus of his administration. Dope smugglers and human traffickers running from state troopers along the U.S.-Mexico border in cars with paper tags. Bodies flying from this car as a human smuggling suspect makes a run for it. crashing through a border crossing gate trying to flee into Mexico. In Laredo, troopers eventually catch up to this truck with a paper tag and discover bales of drugs. Federal drug enforcement agents in the Rio Grande Valley tell us smugglers now frequently move drug loads with the help of fraudulent Texas paper tags.
We see it on a regular basis. It's consistent, and again, it's been happening for quite some time.
For months, NBC5 Investigates has shown how the Texas DMV does not thoroughly background check car dealers. That's allowed people with bad intentions to get car dealer licenses, sometimes using stolen identities. The bad guys can then access the DMV's temporary tag system, create real tags registered to false names and addresses, and sell them on the black market. Tags that are a drug runner's dream, agents say, because they make it harder for authorities to figure out who owns the car.
There are also some undercover investigations that we have where criminals have given the paper tags directly to our undercover officers and instructed them to affix that tag to the vehicle.
So the cartels know that this is a tool they can use to try to evade.
Oh, absolutely. The cartels are well aware.
We also spoke to the FBI. They tell us smugglers on the Mexican side of the border have also been able to get fraudulent Texas tags without ever leaving home.
These tags, we know, are being printed out in Mexico and put on vehicles as they're being loaded with drugs or people in an effort to try to have some legitimacy as they cross into the United States.
FBI Special Agent Brandon Coker says once the bad guys can access the DMV's system, all they need is an internet connection and a printer to create and sell tags that are harder to trace.
These criminal organizations, they're aware of that and they've taken advantage of that, and they're using that to further, again, all manner of crime.
Cartels exploiting security loopholes in a state system. A surprising twist in a state spending billions on border security.
I am the only governor in the history of the United States who is building a wall on our border.
Governor Abbott has made securing the border one of his top priorities. But the DMV, under the supervision of a board Abbott appointed, did not fingerprint car dealers or inspect dealers in person before giving them licenses, allowing bad actors to get into the system and then create fraudulent tags now being used to undermine border security.
We're going to shut down these fake dealers.
The chairman of the DMV board says the agency's now moving swiftly to implement fingerprinting and other new security measures. He told me the board did not fully understand the scale of the fraud until NBC5 Investigates aired reports in November showing tiny car dealers that seemed to have no storefront but issued massive numbers of tags.
I personally was shocked when I saw it, and I think that the issue there is we've gone from a posture of quick and easy application to know your customer. Now we're focused on knowing our customer.
Governor Abbott's staff has repeatedly declined our requests for an interview. His office tells us the governor continues to work with the DMV and the legislature to address the problem. The DMV's executive director resigned earlier this month as the board called for more action to stop the flow of fraudulent tags. But meanwhile, in the border town where this wild chase happened, tag fraud continues to frustrate police.
It's made it very hard for us to conduct our investigations when, we encounter these fictitious license plates.
The local police chief showed us his impound lot with many cars seized in smuggling cases he deals with daily. Some with fraudulent paper tags that make it tough for his officers, especially when smugglers bail out and run.
The driver absconds, gets away, and we're left behind with a vehicle and the narcotics. And during the course of the investigation, we find out that the plates are fictitious and we cannot come back to the driver.
It's a dead end at that point.
It's a dead end at that point.
The U.S. Border Patrol tells us it's finding paper tags on cars at stash houses, where smugglers hide undocumented immigrants.
Not only at locations such as migrant stash houses, but up in our northern counties where an individual will bail out from a vehicle with additional migrants.
Agents recently chased this Dodge Charger with a paper tag and people ran from the car. A passenger from El Salvador was arrested. The driver escaped. And near this busy border crossing in Hidalgo, Texas, we saw suspected fraudulent tags with our own eyes. On the road that runs north from the border checkpoint, we spotted cars with tags issued by 4 dealers suspected of selling fraudulent tags. according to a Travis County law enforcement unit that's working with the FBI to investigate the fraud. As the DMV now scrambles to close the security loopholes, agents on the border are working harder to track suspects since they can't trust the tags.
It makes us sharper, and we've become sharper because of it. And just like the criminal organizations evolve in their tactics, so do we.
And the state troopers Governor Abbott has deployed to the border are also dealing with these fraudulent tags. In a statement, DPS tells us the department is aware of the growing problem of the proliferation of fraudulent temporary tags and is diligently working to combat this serious issue. DPS tells us its counterterrorism division is working to identify cases where fraudulent tags are involved in crimes, and they're sending more DPS troopers to special training to help them identify fraudulent tags. A lot of effort, Brian, work that might have been avoided if the DMV had better secured its tag system in the beginning.